Well, we've looked at 1 Timothy and now we're on to 2 Timothy. A little bit further on, and Paul knows that his end is near. He hopes to see Timothy again. In fact, he ends the letter by saying to Timothy, "Please come quickly and bring books and my cloak, but come and see me." His heart longs to see Timothy once more. But there's a sense in 2 Timothy of Paul passing on the baton, of handing things over, knowing that his end is near, and giving to Timothy a kind of final words, if you like, of encouragement to run the race, to keep going, to fight the fight. And as we'll see, the letter of 2 Timothy is full of images like that Paul uses to encourage Timothy to keep going, to continue, to preach the word in season and out of season. Well, back in 2004, a mentor of mine died and left me this. What is it, you might say? Well, it's a portable mass set. So there's a small pattern and a small chalice inside. The person who gave it to me had been president of the Methodist Conference, Kingsley Lloyd, and he was given this by one of his first congregations back in August 1929. It was incredibly moving. He was over 100 years old. He'd seen all kinds of things. A wonderful guy, had known what it was to remain faithful to Christ and to experience difficulty, pained by the lack of unity between the Church of England and the Methodist Church, and also had known huge personal suffering in his own life through the deaths of both of his wives, one after a long illness, the other very sudden. I learnt a huge amount from that wonderful man and still think of him often. When he handed this to me, he used very few words, and yet the eyes said it all. It's one of those conversations, the kind of one where there was a sense of things being passed over more than just objects. But it was like a really profound commissioning for me in the year that I was ordained deacon. How I remember that man with thanksgiving and fondness. Well, there's a similar dynamic going on in 2 Timothy. As Paul says to the person whom he's mentored, the one whom he loves, keep going. Don't be distracted. Don't let other people put you off. Don't let them look down on you because of your age. No, you fan into flames the gift that is within you. Paul uses images of a soldier, of an athlete, of a farmer to encourage Timothy to do the work even when it's tricky, reminding Timothy that the Lord hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but rather a spirit which encourages us, gives us courage and boldness, a spirit of power and love and self discipline. And gives us everything we need. We've got the scriptures, and they're useful. And the scriptures that Paul's talking about, of course, is what we now call the Old Testament. So, how much more for us who have the New Testament? And he says, preach the gospel, Timothy. That's what you're called to do. Don't get distracted. Keep focused on that. It's like a ministry of word and sacraments, isn't it, really? Keep focused on the gospel in season and out of season, whether you feel like it or not, whether people are responding or not. You just do what you're called to do, what you've been commissioned to do. You remain steadfast. Even when everything else is difficult and costly, no, you keep going. You remain steadfast. There's a wonderful sense of intimacy in this letter, actually, as Paul, you can almost feel the sense of urging, of encouragement coming through the words. And all of us, I guess, will have people that have passed on the baton of faith to us, people who have encouraged us and shown us the way and things. They may still be around, they may have journeyed before us. But from Jesus all the way down through the disciples, person by person, like Paul to Timothy, the gospel has been passed down and has reached us. And the challenge now for us is to pass it on to others, to pass on the gospel and not just the good news itself, but also to encourage to live out the gospel in and through our lives. It's not enough just to assent to all of this stuff, just to believe it. No, if we truly believe it, we can't but help express it in our lives. And that's what Paul is urging to Timothy. As you believe, now live. As you've received, now preach, now share, now give. So, as we read 2 Timothy, maybe there are people that we need to give thanks to God for, those who passed on to us the faith, those who have encouraged us, who have shown us the way and modelled it, and urged and encouraged us to keep going. And even if we haven't got individuals in our lives like that, well, the challenge is to us to be like Paul to Timothy, to encourage, to urge on, to help people remain steadfast. We can't do this Christian stuff by ourselves. It's supposed to be done as part of a community, even a dispersed community, just as Paul and Timothy were. But nevertheless, they find a way of encouraging each other. And so may we encourage one another. And if we need encouragement ourselves, well, let's not be slow to reach out to others and to ask for it as well. Everything that we need has been given to us by God through his Son and through the Spirit of his Son. So let's take hold of that inheritance and live it out in our daily lives. Won't always be easy, but let's, with Paul, be able to say that we fought the good fight when we get to the end of our lives. 2 Timothy then. Read it, reflect, and think about who you might encourage on the way forward.